Ambassador Elias Carter adjusted his tie, took a deep breath, and stepped into the chamber of the Galactic High Council. It was, as expected, absurdly grand. Massive crystalline columns spiraled toward a domed ceiling where shifting holograms displayed the ever-expanding map of known space. The council floor was a circular arrangement of floating platforms, each occupied by representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species. Hovering drones projected a low, droning hum to maintain the ideal diplomatic atmosphere. All eyes, some literal, some sensor-based, others questionably defined, turned toward him. A towering, silver-plated being in the central seat raised a segmented hand. "Ambassador Carter of Sol 3, you may approach." Elias walked to the designated human platform, resisting the urge to crack his neck. It wasn't every day a species received an invitation to the grandest political forum in the universe. His job? Make sure humanity wasn't immediately classified as a problematic species and banished to the diplomatic equivalent of a timeout corner. A sallow-skinned, insected bureaucrat, identified by his translator as Counselor Vri of the Thelza, cleared his throat. "Let the official record state that the newly acknowledged sentients of Sol 3, self-identified as humans, have been granted this audience. We begin with the most pressing matter." A murmur swept through the chamber. Elias remained composed. He had studied every major species' customs, their histories, their quirks. He was prepared for anything. Vri tapped his long, spindly fingers against a data pad. "We must address your resilience." Elias blinked. "I'm sorry?" Another counselor, a gelatinous mass pulsating within an exosuit, spoke. "Your species has a concerning habit of surviving things that should be impossible." A screen flickered to life behind them, displaying footage of various human incidents. A soldier crawling out of a wrecked shuttle, laughing despite a clearly broken leg. A scientist cheerfully stirring coffee while standing next to an active radiation leak. A deep space miner casually fixing his helmet mid-oxygen leak. Elias exhaled slowly. "These are isolated." "They are not isolated," boomed a reptilian warlord, his crimson scales rippling with frustration. "I personally witnessed your kind endure a 2-hour unpressurized exposure to vacuum. The individual in question later asked for a sandwich." "That was an unfortunate accident," Elias said carefully. The warlord snarled. "And what of your planetary endurance tests?" Another screen activated. A montage played, humans sprinting through sub-zero blizzards, swimming in lava-adjacent rivers, voluntarily ingesting toxins for recreational purposes. Elias' eye twitched. "I can assure you we..." "And then there's this." A final clip showed a human astronaut on an alien vessel, reacting to a catastrophic hull breach by slamming a roll of duct tape over the crack and giving a thumbs up to the camera. A long silence followed. "In our defense," Elias said slowly, "duct tape does solve most problems." Murmurs spread through the council. The crystalline being presiding over the session, High Chancellor Sci-Fi, folded 4 of its limbs. "This duct tape is the source of your durability?" Elias hesitated. "Well, it helps, but we must acquire this technology," Sci-Fi declared, turning to an aide. "Ensure a trade delegation is sent to Sol 3 at once." Vri rubbed his temples. "Chancellor, I believe the issue is not the tape but rather the species wielding it." He turned back to Elias. "Are humans impervious to logical survival instincts?" Elias considered lying. Then he sighed. "We call it problem-solving." A deep rumble came from one of the shadowed platforms. A skeletal alien with too many joints leaned forward. "Then perhaps you can explain the battle ritual our scouts encountered." Elias frowned. "Battle ritual?" The screen activated again. This time, the footage showed a group of humans gathered around a makeshift fire. They were yelling aggressively, some howling, others swaying as a rhythmic beat played in the background. The aliens observing from a distance had visibly recoiled. The camera zoomed in on a human clutching a microphone, bellowing lyrics to a song. "Don't stop believing." Elias exhaled through his nose. "That's called karaoke." Silence. "Karaoke," Sci-Fi repeated, as if testing the word for hidden dangers. It's a cultural pastime, Elias explained. Not a war ritual. The reptilian warlord grunted. Then why were your kind slamming fists into tables, screaming, and weeping as if preparing for combat? Passion. Murmurs. The gelatinous counselor quivered. I have listened to these songs of yours. They invoke emotional distress beyond reason. What is Bohemian Rhapsody, and why did it make my assistant cry? Elias rubbed his temples. Look, humans are expressive. Sci-Fi steepled his many fingers. Ambassador Carter, the Galactic Council has convened today to determine if humanity is a stabilizing or destabilizing force. Your species is reckless, unpredictable, and alarmingly difficult to kill. Elias straightened. With respect, Chancellor, that unpredictability makes us valuable. We don't just survive, we innovate. We adapt. We find solutions no one else considers. Sci-Fi tilted its head. And your karaoke? Team bonding. The Chancellor observed him for a long moment. Then, finally, it nodded. Very well. The Council will deliberate on humanity's status. Vri, clearly exhausted, tapped his data pad. We shall reconvene in 24 cycles. In the meantime, Ambassador Carter, we ask that you do not introduce any more unexpected cultural phenomena. Elias forced a smile. I'll do my best. As he turned to leave, a whisper from the gelatinous counselor reached his translator. But this Bohemian Rhapsody, may I hear it again? Ambassador Elias Carter had barely made it to his assigned quarters before a notification chimed on his wrist display. Urgent summons, Galactic Council requires immediate human input. He sighed. That didn't take long. With a resigned shake of his head, he grabbed his jacket and strode back toward the council chamber. The corridors of the Galactic Diplomatic Complex stretched in seamless arcs of crystalline architecture, glowing pathways guiding him forward. He passed a few delegates from other species, most of whom avoided eye contact. Others simply stared, as if watching a walking paradox. By the time he reached the central hall, the atmosphere felt strained. Low murmurs rippled through the gathered representatives, and several alien officials were huddled around the hovering data screen, whispering in hushed, concerned tones. Counselor Vri, the ever-exasperated Thelzen, gestured sharply. Ambassador Carter, explain this. A screen flickered to life, showing grainy security footage from one of the diplomatic lounges. In the center of the recording sat a human staff member, one of Elias' aides, holding a steaming cup of something dark. Across from him, an avian-like delegate from the Zelari species watched with horror as the human casually took a sip. The Zelari recoiled, feathers puffing out in alarm. You're consuming a highly toxic stimulant? Will you not perish? The human grinned. It's coffee. The Zelari's head twitched erratically. You drink poison? No, it's fine. It just keeps me awake. By chemically forcing your body into unnatural alertness? Well, when you say it like that, it sounds bad. The video ended, and silence settled over the chamber. Elias slowly turned back to Vri. So, this is about coffee? This is about human madness. Vri snapped. You knowingly ingest substances that would be classified as lethal to half the species here. And you do so casually. Elias exhaled. It's not lethal to us. The reptilian warlord from before, General Karak, bared his teeth. Your kind relies on external chemicals for basic functioning. Unacceptable. This implies biological inferiority. Elias folded his arms. With respect, General, your species requires ultraviolet basking every 2 hours or you fall into a coma. Should I consider that a biological weakness? Karak's nostrils flared. That is different. How? A gelatinous diplomat burbled. Your species willingly induces addiction. That is cause for concern. Elias rubbed his temples. It's not an addiction. It's just a necessity. Vria's mandibles clicked. An uncontrollable necessity. A new voice interjected, smooth, calculated, laced with quiet amusement. Ambassador Carter, If coffee is so harmless, would you consume some now? Elias turned to see Counselor Solari of the Signari, a sleek, fox-like humanoid known for their tactical brilliance. Her violet eyes glowed faintly with interest. He smirked. Gladly. A drone whirred to life, producing a cup of rich, steaming black coffee. Elias accepted it, took a slow sip, and sighed in satisfaction. There. Not dead. The assembled aliens watched intently. A few minutes passed. Karak squinted. You appear unchanged. Obviously. Solari tilted her head. And yet your pupils have dilated, your heart rate has increased, and your metabolic rate has surged by 9%. Elias hesitated. Okay, technically that's true, but... Ria's antennae twitched. You are chemically altering yourself to function at a higher level. Yes? The Thelzen leaned forward. Are you aware of the ramifications of this revelation? Elias frowned. No. The chamber erupted into whispers. A robotic envoy from the Synth Collective finally spoke. If humans enhance themselves with external substances, it implies self-modification tendencies. This places you under the category of potential augmentation species. Elias' stomach dropped. Wait. Hold on. That's not... Solari tapped her clawed fingers together. Ambassador, there are strict regulations against augmentation-based species entering HITER negotiations. If your kind requires enhancement to function optimally, it could justify limitations on your diplomatic involvement. Elias set the coffee down a little too hard. All right, listen. This isn't some dangerous augmentation. It's just caffeine. Ria's eyes gleamed. Then prove your species can function without it. Elias stared. You want me to go without coffee? A pause. Yes. The ambassador inhaled sharply. Fine. 12 hours later. Elias regretted everything. His head throbbed. His limbs felt sluggish. His brain operated at roughly the speed of a half-functioning toaster. The council watched, taking notes. Ambassador? Ree prompted. Elias blinked slowly. What? Karak crossed his arms. You are deteriorating. I am not. You just walked into a pillar. Elias waved dismissively. Tactical miscalculation. Solari smiled. Fascinating. Your faculties decline significantly without external stimulants. Does this not support our concerns? He scowled. No. It supports the fact that I woke up at 4 a.m. to deal with this nonsense. Ree leaned in. So, you admit coffee is a required biological function? Elias exhaled through his nose. Fine. You want the truth? We don't need coffee. But we prefer it because it makes life easier. That doesn't mean we're dependent. It means we're smart enough to optimize ourselves. Solari studied him. And your people function the same under stress, exhaustion, and deprivation? Better, Elias muttered. Karak snorted. Unlikely. Ree tapped a claw on his data pad. Perhaps an experiment is in order. Elias narrowed his eyes. What kind of experiment? The Thelzen grinned. 6 hours later, the test. The council chamber had transformed. A high-intensity simulation played across the vast holographic walls, flashing warning signs, simulated distress calls, pressure alarms. A mock crisis scenario unfolded, designed to test Elias' problem-solving skills. He still hadn't had coffee. Aliens watched expectantly as Elias assessed the emergency. Finally, he rolled his shoulders and cracked his knuckles. All right. Let's do this. Karak smirked. Without your chemical crutch? Elias shot him a look. I don't need it. What followed was a demonstration the council would never forget. Within minutes, Elias had taken control of the crisis simulation, issuing rapid commands, adapting to unexpected obstacles, and, most impressively, improvising unconventional solutions that no AI model had predicted. The counselors whispered among themselves, watching in disbelief. By the end, the simulation ended with a 94% success rating. Elias turned to face them, arms crossed. Satisfied? Solari's eyes gleamed. Very. Rhys sighed, defeated. Perhaps your species is not as dependent as we assumed. Karak grunted. Still reckless. Elias smirked. We call it problem solving. Solari chuckled. And yet you still want coffee. Elias exhaled. Desperately. A long pause. Rhys sighed. Bring the ambassador his damn coffee. Elias Carter had barely taken his first sip of coffee before his wrist communicator buzzed again. Urgent, human cultural assessment required. Report to diplomatic auditorium immediately. He groaned. Do you people ever take a break? A robotic aide beside him whirred. Ambassador Carter, the Galactic Council does not engage in breaks. Efficiency must remain optimal. Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. Of course it does. Resigning himself to another round of alien confusion, he finished his coffee in 3 long gulps and made his way to the Council's Cultural Assessment Hall. Unlike the formal chambers, this one had a vast stage, massive screens, and tiered seating filled with dozens of alien species. The air hummed with anticipation. In the center of the stage, a holographic display flickered with the words, Human Cultural Expressions, Live Demonstration. Elias blinked. Oh no. Counselor Vree, ever the source of his headaches, waved him forward. Ambassador Carter, we require your expertise. He crossed his arms. On what exactly? Solari, the Signari diplomat, offered a polite smile. Your people's unique, vocal traditions. Vocal? What? Vree gestured to a smaller screen, where a clip played on repeat. It featured a group of humans gathered around what looked like a karaoke machine. A burly man, red in the face, gripped a microphone and belted out a passionate, off-key rendition of Livin' on a Prayer. In the background, other humans clapped and shouted, hyping him up like he was performing in a stadium rather than a dingy bar. Elias closed his eyes for a long moment. Vria's antennae twitched. Explain. He rubbed his temples. It's called singing. Or, in this case, bad singing. Karak, the ever-skeptical warlord, grunted. And this is a ritual? Sort of. It's for entertainment. Vree narrowed his eyes. You mean to tell us that humans willingly gather to emit war cries for amusement? Elias stifled a laugh. It's music. Karak tapped his claws against his chair. Your species encourages vocal battle displays. This implies an instinct for psychological intimidation. Elias stared. It's Bon Jovi. Solari interjected. We've analyzed several instances of this behavior. It appears in various forms, your karaoke, your stadium chants, and most concerningly your metal concerts. Another clip appeared, this time of a heavy metal festival. A massive crowd of humans screamed in unison as a long-haired vocalist roared into a microphone, drums pounding like artillery. Some humans in the crowd headbanged furiously. Others formed a circle and began violently shoving each other. The chamber fell silent. Karak's claws tightened around his chair's armrest. That is a war rally. Elias sighed. It's a concert. Vria's mandibles clicked. Are these displays intended to induce fear? He snorted. Sometimes. Mostly it's just fun. Thousand murmurs filled the chamber. One delegate, a delicate, plant-like being, quivered. The sheer force of it is terrifying. Solari leaned forward, intrigued. Humans coordinate their voices instinctively. Does this serve a deeper biological function? Elias shrugged. I mean, kind of. Singing and chanting boosts morale. It's a bonding thing. Vria's expression darkened. Bonding through aggressive, synchronized vocalization? Karak exhaled through his nose. Your species has war cries so powerful they energize others? Elias winced. I don't like where this is going. A new clip played. This time, it was a football stadium. Tens of thousands of humans sang in unison, their voices shaking the very air. The camera zoomed in on the opposing team. Some looked unsettled, shifting uncomfortably under the noise. Solari's tail flicked. This is organized psychological warfare. Elias choked on nothing. It's not. It's just. Demonstrate. Bree ordered. He blinked. What? We must witness this ability firsthand. Elias scanned the chamber. The gathered aliens looked genuinely anxious. He considered his options. If he picked something too intense, he might accidentally spark an intergalactic arms race over music. If he picked something too light-hearted, they might think he was hiding something. Then an idea. He stepped onto the stage, took a breath, and in his best, most solemn voice, began. Sweet Caroline. Silence. Some aliens flinched. Others tilted their heads in confusion. Then, without thinking, he cupped his hands around his mouth and belted. Ba ba ba! The chamber exploded. Several delegates jumped from their seats, startled. Karak flinched. Rhea's antennae shot straight up. The plant being emitted a high-pitched squeak and curled into a ball. A robotic diplomat's lights flickered in distress. Elias blinked. Oh my God! Solari exhaled. You generated an unprompted response. The entire room reacted instinctively. Rhea shuddered. Is this some sort of deep-rooted biological response? Elias realized what had happened. The song was so ingrained in human culture that even he had felt the need to belt out the response. It was reflexive. He had just convinced an entire Galactic Council that humans had an innate call-and-response war cry. Karak, now visibly tense, pointed at him. You have battle hymns. Elias had lost control of the situation. Solari was the first to recover. Ambassador Carter, I believe we may need a separate diplomatic review on this matter. Rhea nodded. Agreed. We must understand the full scope of human vocal rituals. Karak growled. I will report this to the War Council. If humans sing before battle, we must prepare accordingly. Elias buried his face in his hands. Please don't. Rhea's gaze sharpened. Tell me, Ambassador, do you possess other battle songs? Elias paused. Should he? He really shouldn't. And yet, with a grin he absolutely should not have, he took a deep breath. I'm a Barbie girl. Chaos. The council chamber descended into sheer panic. Delegates scrambled, alarms blared, and Karak drew his weapon in sheer survival instinct. Elias doubled over laughing. The Galactic Council had officially declared karaoke a high-risk diplomatic event. Elias Carter knew, deep in his bones, that nothing good ever started with the words, Ambassador, your presence is urgently required in the diplomatic dining hall. He sighed, setting down his data pad. What now? Solari, the ever-patient Signari diplomat, gestured toward the corridor. There has been an incident. Elias fell into step beside her. Do I even want to know? The Galactic Council attempted to incorporate human cuisine into diplomatic proceedings. He stopped walking. You let aliens try human food? Without warning them? Solari flicked her tail. It was an oversight. Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh no. The moment they stepped into the dining hall, chaos met them. Delegates of various species were in complete disarray. Thelzen, a delicate, plant-like alien, was fanning itself wildly with its leafy appendages. A robotic diplomat's emergency cooling systems whirred at maximum capacity. Karak, the ever-intimidating warlord, had tears in his eyes. Vree, ever the instigator, stood at the center of the room, clutching a cup of something ominously red. His mandibles clicked. Ambassador Carter. Explain. Elias squinted. Explain what? Karak growled. Your people consumed fire. Elias blinked. What? Solari gestured toward the table. A dish sat at its center, its vibrant orange-red sauce still steaming. Beside it lay a small bottle labeled Hot Sauce, Warning, Extreme Heat. Elias closed his eyes for a long moment. Who let you people near spicy food? Vree pointed an accusatory claw at a datapad. The official human culinary database labeled this dish as moderately spicy. Elias groaned. Yeah, that means for humans. Karak slammed a fist on the table. This is a chemical weapon. Solari, ever composed, wiped a napkin across her lips. I will admit, it was a rather intense experience. Elias gave her a look. Solari, you're glowing. Indeed, her usually sleek blue scales had taken on a faint purple hue, her species equivalent of blushing. Ree thrust a spoon toward him. Eat. Prove this is a normal human experience. Elias exhaled. Fine. He grabbed a spoonful of the fiery dish, blew on it lazily, and popped it into his mouth. The effect was instant. The delegates froze. Ree watched with scientific curiosity. Karak loomed forward, watching for signs of distress. Thelzin trembled. Elias swallowed and shrugged. Yeah, that's pretty good. The room erupted. Karak recoiled. What are you made of? Thelzin pointed frantically. His internal temperature should be boiling. Ree narrowed his eyes. Humans possess enhanced heat resistance? Elias sighed. Not enhanced, we just enjoy a little heat. Karak wiped his watering eyes. A little? I consumed one bite, and my ancestors screamed in my mind. Elias chuckled. Sounds like a good meal. Ree analyzed him like a specimen under a microscope. This raises concerns. If humans can consume biologically hazardous substances for pleasure, what else is your species capable of? Solari sipped water. You must admit, Ambassador, your people's food habits are extreme. Elias smirked. You haven't even seen wasabi yet. Ree twitched. Wasabi? Karak growled. Enough. No more death sauces. Elias leaned forward. Oh? You afraid, big guy? Karak bristled. I fear nothing. Ree hummed. Then we should conduct further tests. For diplomacy, of course. Elias grinned. I love diplomacy. 10 minutes later, a new dish was presented. A seemingly innocent plate of small, crispy snacks. Karak frowned. What is this? Takis. The warlord snorted. Pathetic. I accept this challenge. He grabbed a handful, tossed them into his mouth, and immediately regretted everything. His eyes widened. His breath hitched. His claws gripped the table. Solari raised a brow. How do you feel? Karak refused to yield. He swallowed the burning fire in his mouth, grunted, and nodded. Acceptable. Elias smirked. You sure? Your eyes twitching. Karak growled. I am. Fine. Ree sipped his water. Fascinating. What's next? Elias leaned back, utterly entertained. Ghost peppers. Karak slammed the table. No more peppers! Solari laughed. Perhaps we should return to safer dishes? Elias grinned. Oh, I can't wait to introduce you all to alcohol. A collective gasp filled the room. Ree stiffened. What is alcohol? Elias smiled. Elias Carter sat at the head of the long, polished conference table, watching the gathered alien diplomats with barely concealed amusement. Across from him, Karak, the hulking warlord of the Ruskan Dominion, still nursed his wounded pride from the Takis incident. Beside him, Ree adjusted his notepad, eager for another round of what he called human biological anomaly analysis. Solari, ever composed, simply observed with a knowing smile. So, Elias said, setting a crystal decanter in the center of the table. Who wants to try humanity's second greatest invention after fire? Karak scowled. You claim this alcohol is a beverage, but the way you introduced it suggests otherwise. Ree tapped his datapad. Clarify. Is it sustenance? Stimulant? Poison? Elias chuckled. Depends on how much you drink. Solari raised a brow. And its purpose? Elias smirked. To lower inhibitions. It makes social situations more entertaining. Karak crossed his arms. Sounds like a weakness. Elias poured a small amount of amber liquid into a glass. Only if you don't respect it. He swirled the liquid, then took a slow sip. Ah. That's the good stuff. Ree watched intently. Side effects? Elias set the glass down. Mild warmth. Relaxation. A bit of euphoria. He tilted his head. Drink too much, and it gets interesting. You lose coordination. Words get harder. Regret becomes a morning problem. Karak huffed. Humans willingly impair themselves? Elias grinned. Oh, just wait. It gets better. He gestured at the table. I've selected different types. Each species can start with something mild. Solari picked up a glass, examining the liquid. And this won't kill us? Elias shrugged. We won't know until we try. Ria's mandibles twitched. Scientific inquiry demands experimentation. The first sip was tentative. Solari, ever cautious, opted for a fruit-based liqueur. Her tongue flicked over her lips, analyzing. Sweet. Slight warmth. Not unpleasant. Karak, on the other hand, slammed back his drink without hesitation. The effect was immediate. He blinked once. Twice. Then exhaled slowly. Elias leaned forward. Thoughts? Karak frowned. It burns. That's the point. Ree, meanwhile, meticulously measured a single drop of liquid into a test tube before drinking it like medicine. He paused. Slight cognitive alteration detected. No immediate distress. Elias grinned. You guys are no fun. He poured another round, this time something stronger. Round 2. Solari hesitated, then took a slightly larger sip. Her pupils dilated ever so slightly. Fascinating. I feel lighter? Ree observed his own reaction. Neuroprocessing slowing by 0.7%. Unusual. Further study required. Karak scowled. Give me something stronger. Elias barely contained his glee. You sure, big guy? Karak growled. I do not fear human beverages. Elias set a shot glass in front of him. Whiskey. Karak downed it in one go. A moment passed. His nostrils flared. His claws flexed. He exhaled sharply. Acceptable. Elias smirked. That's the spirit. Solari, now visibly relaxed, tapped her glass. I believe I understand the appeal. Ree jotted notes. Human social bonding appears to be enhanced by mild intoxication. Elias grinned. Now you get it. Karak narrowed his eyes. Humans fight under this influence? Elias coughed. Not well. Solari chuckled. I suspect many regrettable decisions are made while intoxicated. Elias sighed. You have no idea. Ree tapped his datapad. I request further experimentation. Elias poured another round. Now that's the spirit. What followed was an experiment in chaos. Karak, determined to prove his superiority, demanded progressively stronger drinks. His normally rigid posture slackened. His deep, rumbling voice took on an uncharacteristically cheerful tone. I like this whiskey, he declared. Solari, reclining in her seat, flicked her tail lazily. I feel soft. Ree, usually meticulous, had abandoned his datapad and was giggling. Elias grinned. And that, my friends, is alcohol. Karak, now slightly swaying, pointed at Elias. Human. You are tolerable. Elias raised his glass. I'll drink to that. Solari hummed. I believe. I am buzzed. Ree nodded sagely. Hypothesis confirmed. Human beverages induce cognitive floatiness. Karak slammed the table. We should conquer something. Elias choked on his drink. No. Bad warlord. Solari snorted. I like this experiment. Ree leaned forward, eyes slightly unfocused. Tell me, Elias, do humans sing while intoxicated? Elias's grin widened. Oh, you have no idea. Elias Carter had seen a lot of strange things in his time as humanity's representative, but waking up in the Galactic Council chamber with an unconscious warlord on his left, a giggling bureaucrat on his right, and an overturned table in front of him was a new one. The room was a disaster. Empty glasses littered the polished floor, alien dignitaries were either slumped in their seats or groaning softly, and someone, he strongly suspected Karak, had lodged a ceremonial sword into the ceiling. Elias massaged his temples. All right, what the hell happened? Solari, looking far too composed for someone who had enthusiastically participated in last night's diplomatic engagement, sipped a glass of water. You introduced us to alcohol. Things escalated. Vri, his normally impeccable uniform wrinkled beyond recognition, blinked blearily at his datapad. I have 73 pages of notes. None of them make sense. He scrolled through his logs. One simply says, Karak declares war on gravity. Karak, face down on the table, groaned. I stand by that declaration. Elias exhaled. Right. Let's retrace our steps. Solari swiped through her communicator. The official record states that after approximately 3 rounds of whiskey She paused, tilting her head. Rewrote the Galactic Council's trade regulations? Rhys squinted at his notes. That appears accurate. We argued that all species should have equal access to human coffee beans. Karak sat up with difficulty, rubbing his forehead. And I won a duel, apparently. Elias frowned. With who? Karak pointed across the table. The Supreme Chancellor of the United Syndicates, a 7-foot, insected diplomat known for their rigid neutrality, was sitting in their chair, helmet askew, quietly nibbling on a cracker. Elias blinked. You dueled the Chancellor? The insected dignitary raised a single claw. I lost honorably. Karak grunted. You fought well. Solari sighed. And I believe we also proposed a new intergalactic holiday. Rhys scrolled through his notes. Yes. Intergalactic Beverage Exchange Day. Pending approval. Elias put his head in his hands. We were supposed to negotiate trade agreements. Solari smirked. Technically we did. She gestured at her datapad. The Universal Trade Accords now include a provision for recreational substance sharing between species. Elias stared at her. You mean to tell me that we accidentally created intergalactic happy hour? Karak grunted. A noble achievement. Rhys looked thoughtful. Preliminary data suggests that this bonding ritual increases interspecies trust. He adjusted his crumpled collar. This may be the most effective diplomatic strategy ever recorded. Solari tapped the table. In summary, humanity's reckless indulgence has, unexpectedly, brought about a new era of galactic unity. Elias considered this. So, instead of being the unpredictable wild cards of the galaxy, we're now the social glue holding this chaotic mess together? Karak slammed a fist on the table. I approve. The Chancellor clicked their mandibles. I too support this initiative. Elias leaned back in his chair, laughing. Well then. I guess humanity's contribution to the stars isn't advanced weaponry, technological supremacy, or philosophical wisdom. He raised an empty glass. It's bad decisions, and good drinks. Solari chuckled, Rhys nodded sagely, and Karak lifted his mug in agreement. Thus, with a grand toast, the most unexpectedly successful diplomatic meeting in galactic history came to an end, sealing humanity's place among the stars as the ultimate bringers of chaos, camaraderie, and cultural exchange.